Someone like myself who loves reading, who makes a booktube channel, has been doing this for 2 years now. Like, even I hate reading for school, and I like reading. Hello friends, my name is Lauren and welcome back to my channel. So, first things first, I got a haircut. It's super exciting. My hair has been too long for far too long and now I can actually see because my bangs are short. Anyways, you don't care, but it's great. Anywho, what we're really here for today is I'm just kind of taking the idea of a video I saw someone else do. It appeared on my recommended page like a month ago and it stuck out to me because I was just finishing high school, so I'm officially now a university student rather than a high school student, so yay, fun times. And I will link her video down below in the description. Definitely check it out, full credits to her, but I wanted to try it out for myself because since I have now finished high school, I thought, you know, why not talk about some of the books I had to read for high school? And so that is what I will be doing today. I have 8 books to talk about. I don't know if I'm missing any. I think this is a complete list. My brain doesn't really remember all of them, but we're gonna talk about 8 books that I had to read for school today, and not really that surprisingly, there's probably gonna be some negativity in this video. But anywho, I'm really excited for this video because I just love this idea for some reason. So anywho, let's just jump right on in. Right now, I'm just gonna be looking down a little bit because I'm on my iPad, but I'm going to be going in order of when I read this book, so starting in grade 9 and working our way up to grade 12. And so the first book I had to read for school was Uglies by Scott Westerfield, I think his name is. And before I actually rate this book, one thing I want to say is that I will be basing my ratings on how I felt reading the book at the time. If I were to reread these books now or kind of rethink of my decisions, some of these opinions might have changed a little bit, but they're gonna be just based as to when I finish the book and my opinions then. So first, like I said, we're gonna go with Uglies, and this book I think kind of gets a lot of hate now, and I definitely kind of understand the idea as to why, but this was my grade 9 pick for book club, and surprisingly, I actually gave it an amazing rating. And the reason is because I actually met one of my friends there. Her name is Maha. She's super nice. And we kind of bonded over this book and this whole series actually. So we only had to read the first book for the book club, but together we ended up reading the second and third book and we really just loved it. And to be honest, I forget almost every single detail in the trilogy, but we both had a great time reading it. I made a new friend and in grade 9, that's super awesome. And so just because of that, I have to give Uglies an amazing rating. I promise you, we're gonna get into the negativity very soon. But I'm happy to start off with some positive vibes because I thought this book was so good. This was before I even knew what like booktube or anything like that was, or rating books, so I don't really know how I would have rated it at the time. Probably really well. Regardless, I loved this book at the time. I have some great memories associated with it, and I don't really know critically if the book's any good, but I just have good memories with this book, so I'm putting it in the amazing tier. And I don't really remember if there was anything else I had to read in grade 9, so I'm just gonna jump on into grade 10 now. And so the first book I had to read for grade 10 was another book club book I got to choose, and I chose Ender's Game. And Ender's Game I wanted to read because I think my second cousin recommended it to me like back in the day, like a couple years ago, and then when I finally had the opportunity to read it for school, I was like, I gotta pick this one because it's gonna be amazing. I didn't really like this book that much. I'm deciding to put it in the meh solid read column because that's what I believe it was. I definitely think reading this book for school hindered my experience because I ended up reading it, I think like twice, if I'm not mistaken, just so I could take a whole bunch of notes to make sure that I was really explaining everything really well. So I ended up buying this book so I could do what I want with it. I didn't know if I was gonna write in it or just put sticky notes, but you'll see here that I have 3 different types of sticky notes. The orange ones are chapter reviews, the pink ones are all about characters and what happens, and then we have settings. I did my 3 types of annotations for half the book, and then I did the chapter reviews for the whole book because I was so tired of annotating this book. So I definitely think that that hindered my experience while reading this book. Overall, I believe I liked the concept of the story, but since I was so heavily like annotating and thinking about everything I was doing for school, it definitely took away from my reading experience. Also, this is just gonna like provoke a mini rant for me now, is that I hate reading for school, which is why this video is gonna be so negative. That's why something I really don't like is the fact that like you have to read for school, and like obviously I get it, but like I think like if I were to have structured like book club for English, I think that I could have done it better than the way the school system sets it up, just because it makes people hate reading. And someone like myself who loves reading, who makes a booktube channel, has been doing this for 2 years now. Like, even I hate reading for school, and I like reading. So I can't imagine someone that already doesn't like reading now has to read for school. It makes no sense. Anywho, so that's why whenever my friends are like, oh, I don't like to read, and I'm like, but maybe if you tried a book recommendation that was actually suited towards you, that you read for fun on your own time, maybe it would be different than you having to read a book for school and then write an essay on it. Totally two different experiences. Anywho, back to the video. So now I'm gonna jump into the next book I had to read in grade 10, which was Macbeth. And I just hate Shakespeare in general so much. Again, kind of going off that whole school thing, I hate the fact that we can't even understand the Old English because literally I speak fluent English. I only speak one language and I can't even understand my own language apparently, and it's so dumb. And I hate the fact that we're reading this old text and taking symbolic meanings when there's so many more current texts, one, that we can actually understand, but two, that have more modern day messages. Like, of course you can take any kind of symbolism message from any text. So why not pick something good? Based off that totally non-biased opinion, I'm gonna be putting Macbeth in the literal garbage category because that's how I feel. I definitely think reading Shakespeare for school should be like an optional thing. Like, you can take like historical English, I don't even know. But making everyone read it, I think is kind of dumb. And so for that reason, I'm putting it in the literal garbage thing because not only personally do I hate Shakespeare, but I think reading it for school is just literally so stupid when there's thousands of books out there that are much more suited to high school students, written about high school students, but no, we're reading about adults from like 400 years ago. Makes no sense. Next up, we are jumping to grade 11, and I'm going to be talking about Of Mice and Men. Now this book is just super dumb, okay? Because I'm just going to jump right into it. I'm going to put it in the 4th tier called Like Recycling because it's not complete garbage, but it's also not anywhere near good. So it's gonna be recycling. So anywho, this book I actually rated and I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars, I believe. And the reason is because this book is literally over 100 pages. It's actually super short and it's not even that hard to get through, but there was literally no point to the entire book. Like, I get that there are character-driven books and plot-driven books, and for me, I'm definitely a character-driven person, and this book is definitely a character-driven book, but there is 0% plot. 0%. There is nothing that happens in this book. It's these two guys that travel to get to a farm of some kind to work to make money and save for their dream. You'd think, okay, that's some plot, but no, it's literally them just talking the whole time with some long descriptions that really don't add any value. And literally, my English teacher at the time, she's such a nice person, but I'll never forget, there was this one quote and it was like, the shaded lamp dimmed the room or something like that, and she was like, this represents the mixed feelings that are going on in the story, and I'm like, it's a lampshade. It's a lampshade. It's not that deep. And so that just always stuck out to me. I didn't like reading this book. I found it boring. Again, I did annotate it a little bit as well, so I guess that kind of took away from my experience too, but I just did not like this book at all, point blank. Next up, another book for grade 11. It is The Kite Runner, and I actually did enjoy this book. So I'm gonna put it in the enjoyable category here. And I actually did rate this book at the time. I rated it a 4 out of 5 stars, and it's definitely not something I normally read. It is definitely a more heavier text, and it takes place over like an entire guy's lifetime, which is a lot different than, you know, just a couple days or a week or a year than something I'm normally used to reading in like YA. For me, this book is definitely just very different than what I would read. It definitely probably has a lot of trigger warnings in it as well. It's definitely very deep text that will make you feel a lot of things, but I think it was really well written and I enjoyed my time reading it mostly. Other than reading it for school and like having to write an essay about it, I just enjoyed the book for what it was. Do I ever see myself rereading it? No. But if you do have the opportunity to read it for English, I do think that it's a great book to read. It definitely has a lot of different meanings you can take out of it, a lot of things to talk about. So for that reason, I think this book is really good. And it's also just written really well and definitely has some amazing characters that will stick with you after reading. Next up is a book I had to read for grade 12. And now for grade 12, I took online English. This was actually before coronavirus. I took it in the first semester, so I took online English. So it's a little bit different than the normal English class people would take. But I'm going to be talking about Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. And I wanted to read this book because it was actually recommended by one of my favorite booktubers, Kat from Paperback Dreams. She loves this book, and I was like, oh my god, if she's recommending this book so much, I think she gave it 5 stars, then I should totally read it, especially for school. But for some reason, I didn't really like this book. I'm going to be putting it in the meh solid read category just because I think I missed something on it. Maybe it was the fact that I was reading it for school, and I do think it was because I remember procrastinating a lot reading this book, so I had to read it all really quickly, and I was just not in the mood to read it, which will definitely hinder your reading experience if you just have to read something you don't want to read to begin with. So I did end up giving this book 3 out of 5 stars, which is definitely like a solid book. I kind of enjoyed my time reading it, but it wasn't as great as I thought it was going to be, and for some reason I just didn't really like it all that much. And like I already said, I do think it was partly because I procrastinated for so long, and then also when we had the book club I was kind of sick, and so I couldn't even really speak, and so then my whole memories associated with that book aren't even that great. So for that reason I'm putting it in the meh solid read, because my reading experience definitely could have been better with this book. Next up, I am going with Blink by Malcolm Gladwell. Now, this book was about 300 pages, and I got about 100 pages through, and then DNF'd the book. But I was still able to write like 3 different pieces on this book, so I think that was great for me. And so for that reason, I'm putting this book in the literal garbage category, because I never finished it because I was really bored during it. I don't really like nonfiction books, and we had to read a nonfiction book, and so I thought that picking one by Malcolm Gladwell would be good because he's a really famous author and known for this type of stuff, and this book also got a lot of hype, but unfortunately it just wasn't for me. I don't think I'm a big nonfiction person. Maybe it was just this book, and I know a lot of people like this book, and so I feel kind of bad for putting it in this category, but for me personally, I know that this book just completely missed the mark for me, so hence I'm sorry. And the last book I'm going to be talking about is again something I read for grade 12, and technically I didn't have to read this book, but it was an English book that other people had to read, so I read it. And Orcs and Crake by Margaret Atwood. I was kind of really looking forward to this book because Margaret Atwood is like a super famous author. She has written so many things. She has a masterclass that I started watching too, and so I was really excited for this. But unfortunately, this book is going to be going in the literal garbage category. It is my least favorite book probably on this list. I give it a 1 out of 5 stars and just genuinely hated my time reading it. I honestly think that even if I didn't take notes throughout the time of me reading this, I would probably hate it just as much. The story didn't make a whole lot of sense. I didn't really get any significant value out of it. There was literally only like one time in the book where I was ever interested in it, and it wasn't even good enough to really bump this book up to a 1.5 stars. So for that reason, not only did I have like higher expectations and was incredibly disappointed, but the story itself was just pretty bad. It was really boring, there was so much description, and I just don't understand how anyone really liked this book, and why on earth that the school picked this book as one of the books people should read. Personally for me, if there was one book I had to recommend for high school students to read, especially those in like grade 11 or 12, it is Radio Silence by Alice Oseman, and I recommend this book so much. And I know it's probably annoying at this point, but it's just such a good book. It was tied for like my favorite book as of last year, I believe, or it was like top 2 I think, but it is just so good, and I think so many high school students can relate to, or even first year university students. It has a lot of great representation in the book, and I just think that not only is it a wholesome read, it has its ups and downs, and it's just so much better than anything I read in high school so far. It has so much great meaning, it's relevant to today's topics, it talks a lot about technology, or not even technology, but like fandom culture and stuff, which I think a lot of teenagers can like relate to and actually enjoy. And so for that reason, if you ever get the opportunity, read Radio Silence, because it's just such a better book than any book you'll ever read for high school, at least in my opinion. But anywho, those are all the books that I read for high school. I might be missing a couple, but like I don't really know, so I'm gonna leave it at those 8. And overall, it was kind of a sucky reading experience in high school, and I definitely understand that anyone who just reads the mandatory English book, I totally get why you hate reading, because like, me too. But hopefully now that I am done high school, I will go on to read some actually good things in university, hopefully, or at least have more time to read what I actually want to, and so thank God for that. Anywho though, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and comment down below what books you've read for high school, if you liked them, if you didn't, if you agree with any of the things I said, let me know. Anyways, I will see you all very soon in a new video, so until then, bye.